welcome back to Rim Grazers Podcast, episode 4. Today I'm joined by Frank, and today we actually got Chance on because there's no mistakes, at least so far. Chance, you want to say hi to people and where you're from and what team you root for?
All right, hello to the people. My name is Chance. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and because of that, I'm a Hornets fan. So that's about the only reason. Just a local team, kind of stuck with it, but I love them. I can't help it.
Yeah, so last time we were on, you brought up something really interesting about point guards, and we started debating, and we decided we're going to make a list of our own top fives at each position. And that's what we're doing today. So we're each going to share our own top fives and then just, go about it from there. We're going to start. We're actually just going to go in order. So we're going to start with point guards. And I'm going to let Chance share his first since he was the one that came up with the point guards first.
All right, so I'll just go ahead and list my top five. So my top 5 point guards in order were Magic Johnson, John Stockton, Steph Curry, Isaiah Thomas, the slightly taller one, and Chris Paul coming in at number 5.
And my top 5 is the top 3 is exactly the same, but I have Chris Paul at 4 and I have Steve Nash at 5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So mine is Magic Johnson, Steph Curry, John Stockton, Oscar Robertson, and then Chris Paul. So,
all right. So let's talk about Steve Nash.
Yeah.
Why'd Steve Nash crack that number 5? I love Steve Nash.
I'm looking at Isaiah Thomas's numbers, and he was a great player and all. And I feel like the Bad Boy Pistons defensively are like one of the best teams assembled. And it just looks like Steve Nash, like, according to the rating, apparently is a better defender than Isaiah Thomas. I mean, Steve Nash wasn't a bad defender. But Isaiah Thomas, looking at the numbers, he just wasn't shooting as well as Nash was. I just feel like Nash, even though he wasn't as aggressive as he could have been, and Brandon brought that up that because he did play soccer prior to basketball, he was basically taught don't shoot unless you know you're going to make it. So I just don't think he was as aggressive, but if he was, I mean, I think he could have been averaging well over 25 a game. And just his efficiencies are just much better than Isaiah Thomas. And I would say Steve Nash was a better passer than Isaiah also. But I would say the only thing is Isaiah was a better defender to me. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So I'd say Isaiah a better defender for sure. I mean, on their career, I'm not looking at Steve Nash's numbers, but Isaiah gave you 19 and 9. So Steve Nash is absolutely a better passer. I mean, he's got one of the best just feels for the game, like court awareness ever. I love watching Steve Nash pass the ball. I think there's a world that exists where that if you just let Steve Nash go, like if you say, okay, I mean, obviously the Suns was already his offense, but if you're like, this is going to run through you, he's kind of like the precursor. He would have been the precursor to Steph Curry. He was an incredible shooter. If they really unlocked him and just let him launch, that'd be one thing, but I don't know if that would have ever been his play style either. Like, he's such a facilitator. But that was an interesting number 5. I was not expecting to see Steve Nash in the top 5. I don't know why, because I love him, but that surprised me.
I mean, I was bouncing around Steve Nash and Jason Kidd, and then as I looked at it more and more, I couldn't put either of them in.
I saw a lot of people had like Jason Kidd in there also, looking at other people's rankings and stuff. And like, I love Jason Kidd too, so I wanted to put him in there. But just looking at the numbers and the shooting, I just think Nash is just better overall. That's just why I put him in there. Like, I was debating between him and Isaiah and Oscar Robertson. And I think the reason why I left Oscar out, even though the incredible numbers he's putting up and he was averaging a triple-double most of his career, is the era. And I think that's going to come up when we talk about centers as well, is I just don't know how it translates to today's game when you have better teams and better players. I don't want to say that they were slouches or bad. It's just, I think it's just a harder translation when you go back 40 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
no,
like
I
pace of
agree.
play and stuff too. It's strange to judge, but yeah, I didn't have Oscar in my top five. I love that he averaged a triple double. I love that about
Hmm.
Russell Westbrook too, but I wasn't gonna put Russell Westbrook in my top five either. I love Chris Paul. I think he's just such like a you couldn't give a point guard like a better mind for basketball than Chris Paul has. Like
Yeah.
if you want anybody to be the floor general of your offense, I think he's an incredible person to go with. Except maybe John Stockton.
Yeah, and his
Yeah.
defense is so good too. It's like he does everything. I don't think there's anything he can't do. Like when they give him the opportunity to just take the ball and create a shot, he'll do it. And he'll either hit a
Mm-hmm.
long three or he'll break you down the mid range and hit a fadeaway, or he'll get the defense so out of position that it's just an open shot for someone else. And then on defense, I've watched him guard like dudes that are 6, 7 inches taller than him, and he just doesn't move. It's insane.
Yeah, he's like a
So
little, I don't even know, but he's so
fire hydrant.
strong. Yeah, he's so stocky. And, he's in year 14 of his career, and historically, like past the age of 30, short point guards don't age well. But he is having a great year in Oklahoma City. Like, they're overachieving, I think, more than anybody thought they were going to this year. So,
Yeah, I agree. A guy that none of us had on our list was Jerry West. What do you think about that?
I think people, at least that I've seen, and I guess in my opinion, I think he's more of a two guard.
yeah, I count him as a shooting guard also. That's why he's not on my list.
That's
I
fair.
think I don't know if he played point guard for them. I don't know what he was listed at, but I feel like he was more of a two guard.
He was listed at point guard. I thought the same thing you guys did, and that's why I didn't put him on either. And, but we'll get to that, I guess, when we get to shooting guards too. I just thought I'd mention that. Um, what about, so I had Steph Curry behind Magic, but ahead of John Stockton. Meanwhile, you guys had it Magic, Stockton, Curry, right? I got that right?
Yeah, so that was
Yes.
the other discrepancy. Why Steph in front of Stockton?
I just think his ability on offense is just otherworldly. And I know on defense he's not the same, and the assist numbers aren't exactly there, but I think Steph Curry creates a shot for people that most people won't see because it doesn't show up in the box score because it'll be like a swing assist. And I understand like John Stockton has a better defense, but like if you had to tell me like if I'm gonna pick one or the other to put on my team, I'd go with Curry.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, I had Stockton
No.
ahead of him, and I don't even know if I would draft. It's such a weird thing because I think, well, Steph Curry's career is still happening for one. I mean, he's got more championships than Stockton, but God, it's just Stockton, 9-time assist champ, 2-time steals champ, 11 times All NBA, 5 times All Defense. That is a incredibly just decorated career. Not to say Steph Curry has any less of a decorated career as the best shooter of all time, but you're really just kind of nitpicking when you're getting with these guys. I mean,
Yeah,
people would kill to
exactly.
have any of them on their team.
Looks like Steph Curry's been to 5 finals in a row. Strangely enough, has not won a finals MVP. Even though
That
he
is
definitely should have at least one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he should have got the Iggy year for sure.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't really blame anybody to want to go Stockton, I guess. I just feel like most people would pick Steph Curry if they needed somebody. And I was honestly debating putting him ahead of Magic, but just Magic overall, just everything he's done, dude, is just crazy. He was honestly the best player in NBA history until Michael Jordan showed up, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's probably accurate outside of some of the centers that were around. But I mean, he changed like the idea that if you're a certain height, you can't run the floor and run the
Right.
offense as a point guard. Like without Magic Johnson, like there's no LeBron James happening. Like they would have played him totally different if Magic kind of hadn't played the way he had as a big point guard.
And how many finals did he make it to? 9?
Uh,
I want to say it's 9 out of like 13 years. I might be wrong. I don't know. off
yeah,
the
you
top
just
of my
get a
head.
generational talent that's a
Yeah.
gifted passer and that tall and can defend and make everyone else on the floor better. It's just
But it really
Man.
is like the LeBron before the LeBron. Like they were in the finals almost every year. Like there wasn't a finals where like you're not talking about Magic's team competing.
And he one of the most marketable personalities in NBA history. So you're
Yeah.
making a lot of money with him on your team too.
Right. All right. I felt like that wasn't too debatable. And I don't know the shooting
No.
guards. I don't know if they're going to get more interesting, but I'll let Frank start on this one.
The other thing I wanted to just note real quick is how when we were talking about like averaging triple doubles and things like that, I always thought that, especially Westbrook doing, I always thought like rebounds are a kind of overrated stat. And I also kind of felt that way about assists, but I think you can make the case more for an assist. The only reason why I say that is because you have the ball handler who's usually the point guard, and they're going to have the ball, like 90% of the game. They're going to pass it to someone who's going to eventually make a shot. But when you look at like John Stockton and Magic Johnson and Chris Paul and Isaiah, like you see them, and Oscar, of course, you see them up there with averaging like 10, 9 assists. I mean, especially in that era, it's like they were doing more than just giving it to an open guy. I mean, their passes made people open, So I just wanted to leave it at that,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what like advanced stats are for too. I mean, per isn't perfect, but if you look at like their per, their player efficiency rating, it's probably gonna be very similar. And I think that's where you would account for like the assists that he doesn't have versus somebody who averaged that many assists, because
exactly.
he does things where it's not gonna show up exactly in a just in your typical box score that people look at.
Yeah, Steph is the most efficient person that has the most inefficient play style of all time. He's one of the most efficient people, period, of all time. But it's like he's literally just out there chucking threes at a higher percentage than some people are in the NBA hitting layups. Like, it's ridiculous.
His true shooting percentage from his MVP years, 63%, 66%, and then 62% in 2017 and 67% in 2018. Like, that's just unreal.
It's just,
For a guy that's just shooting as many threes as he does.
Yeah, that's dumb.
I could see why you'd want to put him second. Like, I would totally agree with that. Like, his play style just changed how offenses and defenses have to play him and now match up against different people in the NBA now. He just completely changed the game the past decade. So
I mean, you really could have put him first, and I couldn't just have been like, well, you're wrong.
Yeah, no.
It's like he has an argument. He's incredible. Yeah. I mean, he's still, he's 32. And, his play style, as long as he can stay healthy, is going to age incredibly well.
Yeah.
Like, incredibly well. He's always going to have a place on the court.
Right.
And playing around Clay, too, it's just impossible to guard. Talking about, in my opinion, the best two shooters of all time.
Yeah.
And just, yeah.
You remember in it was like 2012, something like that. I forget. I think Mark Jackson was the coach at the time. And he was like, yeah, this is the best shooting backcourt in NBA history. And people were like, whoa, now. And then they wrecked every single record ever.
Like I tried to tell you.
Yeah.
So we want to
close.
You want to move on to shooting guards?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my top five is MJ, Kobe, D Wade, Ray Allen, and then Klay Thompson.
All right.
Wow.
Ray Allen and Klay Thompson, kind of out of nowhere for me. I feel like those first three in terms of shooting guards is just undebatable. It's like those.
I'll admit right now, the first three for me are that same exact order.
Yeah.
MJ, Kobe, Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's just those are the three most storied shooting guards in NBA history, probably. My top five to round it out. So I had the MJ, Kobe, D Wade, and then my 4 was James Harden. I put James Harden at number 4, and then at 5 I put Jerry West.
Okay. All right, so I have the samest chance up to the last spot. So I have MJ, Kobe, D Wade, James Harden, and then I put Clyde Drexler as my 5th.
All right. I like that. I was debating throwing Clyde in mine, but
the reason I put Clyde was I was just watching so much, and like it's just like when looking at his stats, I think the lowest year he averaged was like 18 points per game. So he was always getting you 20 points a night no matter what. Also, very underrated passer. like extremely underrated. His assists, like the number of assists he was getting per game, are just about the same as Harden's. And even just watching some highlights of him, just like he makes the same passes that James Harden does. Actually, probably a little bit more flashy, if anything. It's kind of amazing, like some of the like his vision, not very talked about. And obviously, his finishing ability around the rim is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's an incredible player. It's just I feel like he was kind of like D Wade before D Wade.
Yeah.
And
slightly better shooter, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, the reason I put Jerry West in that fifth spot is he averaged on his career 27, 6 boards, 7 assists. Like, that's almost like LeBron numbers. That's pretty much he's almost averaged the same numbers as LeBron. On top of that, 5 times all defensive team, 12 times all NBA. You know, at the time, way less players were in the NBA to compete for those spots. So, that's still, 5 times you're a top 15 player in the league at least. So I just had to go with the logo on that one. I'd be interested to see how his game would translate. But
yeah, especially since there was no 3-point line.
Yeah.
Right.
So that would be interesting to me. I feel like the top 3 is set in stone. Like, there's really no debate. And MJ, Kobe, D Wade is the best 3 shooting guards of all time.
Yeah, Kobe's like a clone copy of MJ. But just about as successful of a career as MJ. And then D Wade, he's like, it's weird. I don't know if I'd put him up there with Kobe and MJ, but like, he's also not in with the other guys below him. So he like perfectly fits in at 3. Like, I don't have any way to like move him up or down.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. You can't make the case that he's better than Kobe or Michael, but
But he was a really good defender.
Ahead of him. Maybe James Harden might come for his spot, but I feel like James Harden he'll have to probably get a ring. And I hate saying that because I know it's not all about rings. Like, so much of that has to do outside of the individual player's performance. But so far the knock on him, albeit it's not completely accurate, is that he doesn't perform in the playoffs. While I think he does perform well in the playoffs, he hasn't actually succeeded all the way yet. But those Rockets teams gave the Warriors a run for their money, a very serious one. If Chris Paul doesn't go down that one year, there's a good chance that they end up in that finals.
Yeah.
So I had Ray and Clay back to back at 4 and 5, and I feel like people maybe forget or just sleep on how good Ray Allen used to be, like athletically, especially the Milwaukee days.
Mm-hmm.
He could just go out and just get you a bucket, and he was still effective on those Boston teams, and even for Miami. He was transitioning into more of a shooter, but again, just one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, and his defense was also extremely good. And so Clay's interesting because I wanted to put him above D Wade, even though I love Wade. I think maybe Clay can get there. I just think, he's only 30. I just don't think he's there yet. But he has all the tools. He's second best shooter in NBA history. Just his play style has also changed, offensive and defensive schemes. He's a terrific on-ball defender. I think he's got a lot of years left, especially bearing any setback with that ACL. I think he can get there. I don't think I could disrespect Wade and put Clay there yet. But I think when it's all said and done in like 4 or 5 years, I think Clay could be at that 3 spot, but I just couldn't put him there yet.
Well, I'm a big Ray Allen advocate. And like you said, Milwaukee and Seattle, he did way more than just shoot the 3 ball. Like, he could take you off the dribble. He's like dunking on people. Wasn't he in the dunk contest when he was with Milwaukee at one point too? But yeah, I think a lot of people only remember him for Boston, Miami, where he's kind of slotted as like a third, or like in Miami, he's just kind of not really a go-to guy. He's just, he's there to shoot the ball. But yeah, I don't know. I think people forget about how good he was on those 2 teams and how much more he did. He wasn't a bad defender either. He wasn't the best defender, but he
not the best.
Wasn't just giving up a basket every play.
As he got older, you definitely saw that slide off. But yeah, no, I just think people forget about those old days where he used to do a lot more than just shoot. So
yeah,
that's why I had him up there.
Yeah, I think the So Ray Allen at 4, I can see. Klay Thompson at 5. I feel like he fits in well at 5, but you say like you might end up slotting him ahead of D Wade.
I think when he's like 35 or 36, whenever he retires, I think maybe when it's said and done, yeah, but not yet.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a tough one for me though, just because I don't see Klay as being like the best player on a team that wins the championship. Whereas D Wade was by far the best player on that '06 Heat team.
That was 6, yeah.
That won that title. I don't know if Klay, like I love Klay. I think he's probably the best running mate. Like him and Steph Curry are just a match made in heaven. Like to play on a basketball team together. You literally couldn't have found two people that complement each other more. Klay's so good defensively too. Like he's got a very well rounded game. I just had to put James Harden up there just because, like, what he's doing on the offensive end, I mean, while it's totally catered for him to be putting up these insane numbers, like, nobody's really ever done it like that. And I just got to give him a little shout out for that. But, yeah, Ray Allen, I kind of like him at 4. He wasn't my 4, but I like that you put him there just because, I mean, on his career, he still averaged 19 points a game. And that was, you know, he came to Boston essentially to be a third option. And like he kind of knew that was the case. Whereas there's a stretch from, I'm looking at his basketball reference now, from the 99 to 2000 season until 06, 07. So the year before he went to play with Boston, he didn't average less than 20 in any of those seasons. One season getting 26 a game, 125, like a couple around 23, 24. And then he goes to Boston and he kind of fits into that role where he's pretty much strictly doing 17, 18 a night, which is still great for a third option. I mean, he was killing it. Plus, in those years where he was averaging in the 20s, those 3 points attempted, I mean, they're solid, like ranging from 5 to the most 3 points attempted he per game in a season was 8.4. Like, if you put Ray Allen on a team today, you get him the ball and you say launch that thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like in
the year we
today's
averaged
NBA,
most.
the way that he could play make off the dribble too, like he had a really nice handle that he kind of just didn't use anymore once he got to Boston. They kind of used him as like running off the ball, creating space for others. But I think that like you could make him a primary ball handler and just give him the keys to the offense. I think he could have easily averaged close to 30 a game for several seasons in today's NBA, where they would have just cleared out for him.
Yeah, especially if he's able to get to the line as much too. I mean, if you just look at his career shooting percentages, it's insane. Shot 89% from the free throw line for his career, 40% for 3, and his field goal percentage was 45. But again, that's insane.
You look at that stretch that you noted, Chance, from 99 to 02, and he's shooting 42 and 43% from deep. And that's in a, it's 2 decades ago, but today's league average 3-point shooting is around 36%. So, I mean, it's just insane, the shooting. It's just so efficient.
He really was. God, if only he came in the league about 6 years later, I guess. I don't even know. But, I mean, it's not like it hurt him. He had the most 3-pointers made ever I mean, he still does. Steph Curry's going to catch him.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time, but.
Yeah. All right, shall we move on to small forwards?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, I'll start this time. So, I have a feeling you guys might not like the order too much, but so I have I have LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Julius Erving, Larry Bird, and Elgin Baylor.
Okay, so mine, I have the same people, different order. So I have LeBron as 1. Again, that's just undebatable.
Yeah, that's
like I just don't. If you try to tell me any small forward is better than LeBron ever, I just don't believe it. And then I had your 2 and 3 swapped. I put Larry Bird as the second and Kevin Durant as the third best. I think Kevin Durant could catch Larry, but I just don't know if he's there yet. Just looking at the numbers, I love KD's game. I think he's probably, if I had to pick anybody to get me a bucket one-on-one ever, he might be who I go with. But I have him as my third best small forward. And then at 4, I had Dr. J. At 5, I had Elgin Baylor.
So I had the same order as you, Mac. So LeBron, KD, Dr. J, Larry Bird. But at 5, I have Scottie Pippen.
Oh, you threw Pip in there.
Uh,
I was looking at Elgin, I was looking at Pippen, and
Yeah.
I was even looking at T-Mac, and I just had to go with Scottie.
okay, because I was debating Elgin and Scotty. I actually even have a side note here. Like, Scotty would have been my 6, but the reason I put Elgin in there is because he had just the amount of points he scored, and like even just watching his game, I think he'd be okay if he had to play in today's game.
And at the small
He's able
forward
to shoot the
position,
ball, and he was just so strong, dude. Like, just watching him power through people and score, just imagine today where people would have to just kind of let him do that. When there's like back then there was mad hand checking, and you just like deck people.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how strong he was.
plus he averaged 13.5 boards a game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do 6'5", yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah. So
I think for me it's like kind of the era thing again, but I don't deny his greatness and being in the Hall of Fame. Just for me, I feel like Scottie, there was more to his game as far as the 3-point shot, the defense. I think Scottie's one of the best defenders of all time. And again, I think the big thing would just be the era, and maybe I don't know. It's close between those two, but for me, it would be Pippen.
all right, yeah, Pippen at 5 is another interesting choice because you can make the argument, his numbers aren't quite there with everybody else on the list, but he just did what he had to do perfectly. And the one year that he wasn't with, I mean, obviously aside from the Portland years, like talking years that were in his prime, and even that Portland team was in the Western Conference Finals against Kobe and Shaq. But the year that Michael was gone, I mean, Scottie, I think, was 4th in MVP voting, something like that. It's just,
I think he led that Bulls team in points and assists that year.
yeah,
I know he stepped up big. So
yeah. So I mean, I can't really argue putting him as 5. I think in terms of talent, yeah. With the numbers, I don't know, but I can't argue him at 5. Why'd y'all both go KD over Larry Bird?
So, well, so my mind, I even had Dr. J before Larry Bird, and I honestly, I don't know why I put him before, because I guess it could be either way. I felt like it was more of a toss-up, really, because if Dr. J had played in the NBA longer, I think he could have easily played in the NBA, but like, I don't think anything would have changed. I feel like he would have been just as dominant as he was. I mean, he even had an MVP year. When he got to the NBA, he won a championship, and that was all. I think he was past 30 or close to it. But I wouldn't really have a counter argument for why Larry Bird should be past him. I mean, Larry Bird has 3 MVPs. I think, right? I hope I'm getting it right.
I'm seeing Dr. J has 4 though. Is that counting the ABA or is that just
That's
the
counting
NBA?
ABA, yeah. So he had 3 ABA MVPs, 1 NBA MVP. He won 2 ABA championships, 1 NBA championship. So I don't know, like I think that's where it gets kind of iffy. But I think in general, like he made the ABA as popular as he did, and then is kind of part of the reason why there was even a merger to begin with. And they brought a ton of things from the NBA. So I feel like overall, like even his influence, which I know shouldn't be counted too much, but like a lot of people want to play just like him. So I think that's like pretty important as well.
I had KD at 2 just because, in my mind, a lot of people's minds, I don't know if you guys agree, but he's the best scorer of all time. I mean, it's just almost impossible to guard a 7-foot 3-point shooter that can pull up anywhere, can get his own shot. It's just like maybe Giannis and Kawhi are probably the only 2 players I've ever seen actually contest his shot. So that's why I have him at 2. And then just comparing him with Bird, I mean, they're both almost identical in terms of percentages. I mean, KD has the edge by 3% in terms of effective field goal percentage. I just feel like KD was tougher to guard than Larry Bird. And again, different slightly different era. So, I mean, Bird is still one of the best shooters in history as well. And I'd put Dr. J above him just because, I mean, Larry did average 24 and 10 for his career. But the win shares when it comes to Dr. J, as far as defensive efficiencies go, is just off the charts. And I just think he did a lot more in terms of defense and providing more for the team. But I don't know. I mean, you can really argue all those in the orders you guys have, but
I don't know. I feel like Kevin Durant is just better than Dr. J and Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I feel like he's already passed them. I don't know how.
You said that Dr. J and Larry Bird?
Both of them, yeah. I think Kevin Durant's better than both.
Yeah. See, I think Kevin Durant, man, I don't know. Because it's the athleticism.
Today, I think he goes down the second best small forward easy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's easy, though, because Larry Bird, man. I mean, so KD averages 3 more points than Larry Bird on his career. Larry Bird averages 2 more assists, plus he's a double-digit rebounder on his career. That's including some years with a pretty busted-up back, too. Larry Bird made all defensive team 3 times, 10 times All-NBA. KD's at 9 times All-NBA, so he's going to catch him there. But not one all-defensive team. They both won Rookie of the Year. Larry Bird won 3 MVPs. KD's got the 1 MVP. They're both 2 times Finals MVPs. Bird's got 1 more championship. I know Mackey's hoping KD catches him in that. I mean, no argument Kevin Durant is the better all-around scorer. But, I mean, in terms of just pure shooting, I feel like they're pretty even. Bird's the better rebounder, despite giving up a couple inches and a lot of athleticism. And Larry Bird's just floor vision is insane. Honestly, 6.3 assists felt low to me. For some reason, I thought it was going to be higher than that, just watching videos of him pass the ball, the way he can move it. So I think
he's definitely a better passer.
I think it would be hard to argue. This is one of those situations where it's hard to argue that you would take Larry Bird over Kevin Durant if you were starting a team. But I feel like Kevin Durant still has a little bit of ground to make up to catch him in terms of just career success.
I think what slightly helped Bird with the rebounding was that he was listed at power forward for the first 5 years of his career. And then, I mean, it dipped off a little bit, only by 1 or 2 rebounds, but I think that helps the numbers a little bit. But in terms of who I'd rather guard, I think I'd rather guard Larry Bird, even though I would get shit on either way. But yeah, so that's why I have KD at 2, just because it's just impossible to stop him. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Kevin Durant's a better scorer, but I think Larry Bird is better at pretty much everything else. I mean, maybe not physically defensively, but he just has more defensive hardware than Kevin. I think Kevin's a better rim protector for sure with his athleticism and length. On the perimeter, I would assume Kevin should be better because he's more athletic, but I'm not sure how much that holds true. I mean, back in Larry Bird's day too, a lot of people he was guarding, he didn't have to respect at the 3-point line like Kevin Durant would have to. But yeah, I think that's where there may be some wiggle room on there. Who'd you have as your 5th again, Frank?
I had Pippen.
Oh yeah, Pippen. That's what the other difference was.
What do you guys think of? Because I know, Mackie, when you made the rundown, you were talking about how positionless, how do we decide where someone is, and then you brought up the example of T-Mac. Did you guys consider T-Mac trying to slip in at 5 or have him at 6?
I didn't have him at all.
I didn't have him at all just because as much as I love T-Mac, it's just he was kind of riddled by injuries. It's I think he had potential to be one of the best players, just his athleticism, how well he could score the basketball. I would love that. I would love for him to be on this list. He was so fun to watch, but he was just hurt a lot. My question is, it's kind of along the same question. How far does Kawhi miss this list for y'all?
Far? I don't think I'd put him. I guess he'd be top 10. He doesn't play enough, dude.
Yeah, he does load manage a lot.
So I just don't know. I guess he is consistent when he does play, But it's as we get further down this list, there's another guy that I'll bring up that also just didn't play enough.
Yeah, because it's like if you're examining the whole career, then I feel like it's tough to put Kawhi ahead of anybody currently we have in the small forwards. But I mean,
he's also still pretty young though.
He is pretty young, and if you just take peak, like how good they are when they're healthy and playing at 100%. Oh, I'd probably have him at 5 at that point.
I think yeah, it's kind of like the same thing that I have with, or the same argument I have with Clay, even though Clay's like 2 years older. I just think Kawhi is just a little too young for me to really put him up here yet. I think when it's all said and done, he can be, but yeah, like you said, Chance, when he's on the court, I mean, he's giving you playmaking, he's giving you rebounding. I'd say he's the best on-ball defender in the league when on the court right now.
He just evolves so much, but not to cut you off, but just looking at it, so he's only had 2 seasons where he's played more than 70 games. But let's say we don't count that against him. If you look at his numbers to start his career, it took him a while to achieve being like, all right, this is our guy, and he's easily just gonna destroy you. The year they won the finals, he only averaged 12 points per game that year. I wouldn't say he was even the best player on that team in the finals, even though he played much better. But I think it's still easily like Tim Duncan, Manu, and Tony Parker that kind of drove that team home. I think it was more of like a passing of the torch moment because Kawhi was clearly like their centerpiece going forward, and he has moments where like you're just like, holy shit, like this guy's gonna be good. But he didn't make his first All-Star team until 2016. And that's when he actually like started to finally break out. He's averaging 21 points per game and then bumps up to 25. And he has that year where he just doesn't play a game for San Antonio for some reason. And then he gets traded last year and he has like one of the best seasons in like NBA history. Besides just playing 60 games.
I'd agree. His peak performance is incredible. Whole body of work isn't there yet. I was just interested to see where y'all might have him in this row. Because, I mean, in my mind, he's pretty much Scottie Pippen that can shoot and not quite as good of a passer.
Yeah. I would say it's like between Kawhi and Dr. J in terms of my top 5 as far as being the best defenders of all time. I think he's right there with Dr. J. But
yeah, I mean, he's incredible defensively.
And Pippen.
I think I'm changing my order.
I'm moving
Larry Bird ahead. I'm convinced.
I just know one of the big things. I mean, I guess I shouldn't put too much stock in this, but when the 2013 finals hit and a young rookie Kawhi checks in against LeBron James, and LeBron turns around, he's at the free throw line, he just goes, "Fuck!" Like, why does he have to check in? That tells you something. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Oh God, I want that Western Conference Finals matchup more than like anything right now.
All I can think about though is last year's finals. It's just like Kawhi played amazing and everything, but man, when KD came back in, dude, just absolutely destroyed him for 11 minutes. Just every shot on him,
11 minutes
like,
of just Golden State tearing into them. Like when he was on the court, you were just like, oh well, Golden State's gonna win again, and then he just goes down. It was so unfortunate. I mean, I don't really think there's an argument that if that Golden State team is 100%, that
they win.
Yeah, that they win. I mean, they still took them to 6.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah. I don't think it's a sweep.
Klay Thompson ACL. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they were really that close in that game, but clearly that threw away any chance right there. Is when Klay Thompson went down too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you though. I mean, when he's on the court, he's great, but he's just got to stay healthy.
It was just like that little snapshot there. I was like, oh god,
it was just like the similar thing to when KD showed up. And it was against the Cavs the year before. It's like, okay, the Cavs can play as good as they want, but it just felt so hopeless because you just watch how easy it was for that Golden State team to just score whenever they wanted.
Yeah.
But best NBA team assembled.
I mean, if not, it's got to be pretty damn close. Like maybe the one of the Bulls teams you want to pick, maybe one of the classic Lakers teams, but that's about it. Like, I just don't know what you do with that lineup. it's just
What do you do
stupid.
against the best 2 shooters of all time and the best scorer of all time? Not to mention Draymond.
Yeah, and Kevin Durant's
and
probably
then-
like a top 5 shooter in the league at the time.
Yeah.
You pretty much have
Yeah.
Steph Curry, really tall Steph Curry, Ray Allen, like Ray Allen 2.0, and then Draymond and whoever plays for the
Yeah, whether it's Cousins or Dirty Zaza Pachulia, I guess. But,
Yeah.
or JaVale.
Now, see, speaking of Dirty Zaza, it would have been real interesting to see that Spurs Warriors series
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
if Kawhi didn't go down.
Kawhi doesn't go down. Yeah.
So that was unfortunate, but these things happen, unfortunately.
I think one of the things that too makes like a point guard like really good is just how they make their players better around them. And like from that Golden State team, dude, Festus Ezeli made so much money. And like I haven't seen it or heard of him since. There's a bunch of other guys too. I feel like Kevin Looney's gonna be one of those dudes too.
It's kind of like the
leave and
Paytech
just
Tristan
kinda
Thompson guy.
disappear. Yeah.
I mean, obviously Tristan Thompson's better than Festus Ezeli, but that dude got paid way too much money.
All right, so we can move into power forwards, I guess, as long as you guys have nothing left to input onto this.
No, I'm good to go.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
I changed you changed my mind, not about Kevin Durant and Larry Bird, but you changed my mind about Larry Bird and Julius Erving, which honestly I probably should have just had that way from the start. But all right, so for
I think
power,
I had that at first too, but yeah.
yeah,
I
I don't know,
change
because I
it.
was like, oh, he's a good defender and this and that, and like again, I do think if he played in the NBA, his numbers wouldn't have changed, but just in general, like I don't know, when I started looking at the advanced stuff too, like the amount of assists that Larry Bird had, and I also
Yeah.
didn't even realize how many rebounds per game.
I didn't notice that. So,
Yeah.
any
Anyway,
chance you've changed our mind?
Yeah, Larry Bird's ridiculous. I used to love Larry Bird highlights. I ate them up all day. He's just such a good passer, and that was my favorite part about his game. And it's just like this man can't jump 4 inches off the ground, and like how is he just wrecking people on offense? It doesn't make any sense. Shot from like the side of his head, but it was just so money every single time.
You know, the thing that I noticed was he didn't shoot as many threes as I like per game that I thought he actually did.
No, dude, you put Larry Bird in today's NBC, so like he'd be ridiculous. It's just like he would just launch threes.
I'd be like, Larry, listen, you're taking like 6 threes a game minimum.
Yeah, at least. If you don't take 6 threes this game, I'm gonna fine you.
yeah.
It's
And
like
your
just put 'em
job
up.
during the summer is to shoot more, not work on your
Yeah.
farm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on to power forwards. I thought this was interesting and honestly probably harder for me than like the centers because I don't know. There's a couple things here that where I was like, I don't know. Like someone at 5 could easily be like 2.
Mhm.
But I'll let one of you two start. I'll let you decide.
All right, Frank, you want it or you want me to go?
You can go.
Okay, so my top 5 power forwards in this order are Tim Duncan, number 1. I don't know if y'all consider him a center, but I've always considered him a power forward, and I think he's just the best to do it at that position. Number 2, Karl Malone. Unfortunately. Number 3, I had Charles Barkley. 4th, I had Kevin Garnett. And then 5th, I had Dirk Nowitzki.
Okay.
So I had the exact same 5, just a different order. I have Tim Duncan at number 1, and then unfortunately Carl at 2. I have Dirk at 3, Barkley at 4, and KG at 5.
All right, I have the same players too, just slightly different order again. So I had Tim Duncan at 1. Unfortunately, Karl Malone at 2. Charles Barkley at 3. Dirk Nowitzki at 4, and KG at 5. So,
We all have this.
I'm honestly surprised we all have the same 5.
Yeah.
yeah.
This was like my one position where I was like, oh, I feel like this one's going to be weird.
I was seeing the same thing, but like when it came down to it, it's like I felt like these players were clearly like arms and like way better than any of the other players, except the only side note I have here is Elvin Hayes. If I were to like make this list longer, he'd probably be 6. He averaged, what was it, like 25 points per game and like 12 rebounds per game for his career, something crazy like that. Just unbelievable on the interior. But just these other guys were just so much better in terms of scoring. And I think defense too, honestly, except they're, but you know, they're have, what is it, 35,000 career points? Or no, that's way too high. He definitely had over 30. He's in the 30.
I mean, he's top 10, in scoring of all time.
Yeah.
The 4 and 5, KG and Dirk were the toughest for me. I gave KG the edge just because of his the defensive side of the floor, but Dirk is he's just an incredible player. So unorthodox, but like,
yeah,
really
1,000 career points.
Yeah, he changed. There's like, we need to get these big European guys after Dirk was drafted, and then none of them ended up being as good as Dirk.
Yeah. So I clearly, I thought like it was pretty clear that Tim Duncan was one. I guess you guys thought the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think that can be argued. I think Tim Duncan, honestly, in people's top 10 of all time is frequently overlooked by people. I mean, just reading the basics from, like, just a little bio in his basketball reference. 19 points, 11 boards, 3 assists per game, just off the rip. I can't see his block numbers on the screenshot. I'd have to look it up. But how many years was he in the league? 20?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say, even if we're wrong, 20 years in the league.
As close as 18.
Okay, 18.
Yeah.
So in those 18 years in the league, 15-time All-Star, 5-time champ, 15-time All-NBA, 15-time All-Defense, 97-98 All-Rookie, All-Star MVP in 2000, 3-time Finals MVP, 2-time just straight-up MVP, and the Rookie of the Year. Like, that is insane. Except for 3 years of his career, and I'm pretty sure those were the 3 years at the end of his career. Not even like, so pretty much from the time he's a rookie to year 15 of his career, he's a top 15 player in the league, both all around and just defensively. Never missed the playoffs in his entire career. Like,
no, just
went head to head against Shaq, who's the most dominant player of all time, debatably, and played better than him.
Just listen to these rookie year stats, dude. 21 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 2.5 blocks, field goal percentage, shooting 54% from the field, and he made the All-Star team. That's as a rookie.
Yeah.
That's insane. He did play 4 years of college, though. So, I mean, I think that helps more than people give it credit for, especially now in the NBA, because guys are just one and done every year. So you don't really know what the full effect is. And I feel like a lot of teams would rather take a chance on a guy that's just coming out as a one and done rather than, you know, drafting a 4-year person, which I think it pays off more often than not. I don't know how many years Kyle Kuzma was in the college, but I'm pretty sure it was more than one, right? Or am I wrong about that? But he ended up being the 27th pick, and he's played way beyond those expectations.
I think the years in college definitely help some players. I think some players probably just come out and they aren't physically ready and they get kind of beat up, and I just don't know. It's just also the maturity of being in college helps as well.
Yeah, you just learn so much, especially from your coaches. You know?
But I can't blame him. If I was an 18-year-old kid, played 1 year of college basketball, and somebody's like, "We'll give you $15 million to come play for us right now," I'd be like, "All right, I'm leaving. Sorry, guys.
I'll come back later."
Yeah, I'm taking that money for sure.
And then, so here's the thing: you mentioned how whether or not we have him listed as like, would we consider him a center? And like, he's played at that power forward position all the way up until, I mean, this Basketball Reference has him listed as center starting in 2007, but I'm pretty sure he didn't start playing center until, I want to say like 2015, when Aldridge got there. Or I think that was 2015, right? I could be wrong. It's close to around that time, like the end of his career. even though he's played like a center for most of his career, I mean, even with David Robinson on the floor, there's kind of times where like they just kind of switch off as like the center. And I feel like he's just done that a ton, whether it was with him or Tiago Splitter or whoever it is. He'd also play a lot of minutes just with him at center with no others big on the floor, maybe like Boris Diaw. So I think there is an argument for him to be at center. I don't know. I feel like he's more just a power forward in general.
I think he's one of the last like power forwards. I think this is the one position that is really like not even existent in the NBA anymore. It's really just like an extended small forward, usually someone that can just space the floor. And I think he's one of like the last ones. Here's
the thing. So he made it work. And I like you're saying it's kind of like going away, but there is one player I think that does it exactly like he does. And I would say AD. Just same kind of mentality, very good defense, can easily move over to that center spot. He could post up and play like the center, and just somebody else spots up. I don't know. And he's also a good enough passer to make sure that the ball's getting to where it needs to be. Maybe not as good as Tim Duncan, but
more athletic too. But yeah.
AD has a better handle as well. Like he can face up at the 3-point line and break somebody down off the dribble. The thing is, the real question about Anthony Davis is, by the end of his career, because he's going to be on this list, I'm assuming, at least for me.
At some point.
It's just going to be how high he ends up. I don't think he's taking over Tim Duncan. I mean, Tim Duncan's career is just, it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. His resume is so good. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
I mean, AD's already behind the 8 ball on that because in terms of postseason success, AD's had none for the most part.
Yeah, non-existent. One playoff series.
Yeah. And then, like you're saying, just like off the bat, Tim Duncan's just been ridiculous. To like the numbers he averaged could have easily been a veteran that was in year 8.
Mm-hmm. And that was that rookie year. Man.
So I think Karl Malone at 2 is pretty obvious too. I had a hard time trying to put anybody else above him. I don't know about you guys.
Looking at the numbers, it like Karl Malone belongs at 1 in terms of field goal percentage. I mean, he's averaged more points than Tim Duncan. The only stat that Tim has on Malone is blocks, but I think a lot of what I weighed this on was that he played with John Stockton, and I think John Stockton made Karl Malone into what he is. Maybe not all the way, but much better passer than Tony Parker. And I just think Tim made a living off that bank shot and just changed the game. So that's why I put Tim first. I just think Malone had Stockton to help him.
Yeah, a big difference too is there's a difference of 11 all defensive teams, and 3 Finals MVPs is crazy too. But something that's funny is because you brought up how the power forward you're saying is like the most non-existent position, because it's kind of like you just get all these wings and put around your one big, if you even have that one big. In the case of the Rockets, you don't. But the guy on our list that honestly made that into that is Dirk Nowitzki. Like, he changed that. He was like, oh, we can get a big, or at least a sizable wing to come out here and knock down this 3 ball. Look how much spacing we have with the rest of the court.
Yeah.
His rookie year was not very good. I think a lot of the fans hated him. I think they called him Irk Nowitzki because they didn't like his defense, and they're like, why is he shooting these threes? And I think he was shooting like close to 40%, which is just way below league average, especially for a big.
Yeah,
and then like his second, third year, he just picked up the 3-point, and it's just like, wow, we're stretching the floor with a big, so he absolutely changed it.
Yeah, I mean, shooting 20% from 3 that rookie year is pretty bad. I would probably question whether he should be doing it too.
But it did work out for him.
So I guess Tim is easily the clear cut one. I guess Karl would be our clear cut too, just based on his career success with in terms of just being able to score. I don't think he's all right. I'm not gonna say he's the worst defender ever, but he's not nearly as good as Tim, and probably not as good as Kevin Garnett, who's on this list. But I don't think he's a slouch either. His ability to just like run the floor, though. Again, like you pointed out, though, I think John Stockton is probably a lot of a main component to his success. It's just like his numbers and everything, and like in terms of where he got to. I mean, they made back-to-back finals. They're in the playoffs just about every year. Actually, I don't even know. Was there a year where Karl Malone didn't make the playoffs?
Yeah. At least when Stockton was there, Stockton never missed the playoffs.
Okay.
I do know that. But.
Yeah. So I mean, that's almost like Tim Duncan numbers. That'd be 16 straight years of just making the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's just crazy. It's like for your entire career, you're never on a bad team.
Yeah. And that definitely has to do with him. Obviously not all of it. Like we agree that Stockton is part of the reason, but yeah, so
I think they said like the most the thing that you heard on at least the Jazz and announcer radio was Stockton to Malone on the oop.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I credit a lot of that to Stockton, but I wouldn't say Malone was bad or he didn't do anything himself.
I'm looking at the numbers. I'm pretty sure he's made the playoffs every year of his career. I don't see. Yeah, he didn't miss a year where he didn't make the playoffs. That's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, you can't say that about many people. So I'll definitely. I don't know. His achievements are just wild. Second most points ever in NBA history too, and his rebounding was just something else. I don't know. And then so I think where we start to get our disagreements were 3 through 5. Who I think Chance, you said you had Kevin Garnett at 3.
I had Barkley at 3, KG at 4.
Okay, who was it? Frank, did you have someone else at 3?
I had Dirk at 3 and Barkley 4, KG 5.
All right, so me and Chance had Barkley at 4, and you had Dirk me and Chance had Barkley at 3, and you had Dirk at 3. So what made you go with Dirk over Charles?
I think Dirk brought more to the table. I mean, I love Barkley, especially being a Sixers fan. And being only 6'6", and the amount of rebounds that he got for your team, it's something to marvel at. But I think Dirk brought that 3-point game, and he brought a new generation of big men who can shoot the ball. And just his post game is also incredible. I think he brought more just offensively and just changed the game in that regard. I mean, I can't discredit what Barkley has done. I think Barkley, you could argue, was the better defender, but I just think, especially in today's era, I'd rather have Dirk over Barkley.
Yeah, that's tough to argue. I would love to see Charles Barkley play in today's era, though. I think he would. I mean, they would run him. He would pretty much if you replace PJ Tucker with Charles Barkley on the Rockets.
Oh boy.
Yeah, dude, put him on the Rockets.
Yeah, that would be incredible. But also, just the long list of nicknames for Charles Barkley: Sir Charles, the Round Mound of Rebound, the Chuckster, the Chuck Wagon, the Prince of Pizza, the Incredible Bulk, the Leaning Tower of Pizza, and Bread Truck. Yeah, that's got to count for something.
Yeah.
But no, I had Charles at 3 just because he won MVP, had that finals appearance against MJ where obviously Michael won, never lost in the finals, 11 times All NBA. I just think his rebounding at his size especially was incredible. Still getting 22 points a game. I honestly think if he played the day, he probably would have worked to develop that 3-point shot a little bit more. Because watching some of the games he played, he was willing to shoot it. It was just never a great shooter of it. I think that's something today they would have worked with him a lot on, that he could have improved on. And I think that he would just be a great, he's kind of just what
Good
what
passer,
Draymond
too.
Green wants to be, kind of.
Yes.
No shade to Draymond Green. But Charles Barkley was nasty.
Well, maybe not a great passer, but definitely a willing passer. He always made
Yeah.
the right pass to the right person. So
Yeah.
he had like a lot of trust in his teammates. Not to say Dirk didn't, but I don't know. I just feel like when Dirk got the ball in the post, it was either just toss it back out to the guy on the same side, or try to do whatever he does. Whereas Chuck, I think he just got it and then read the defense before he did anything with it. It was like, all right, like this guy's gonna cut through. Let me see, not there, back down, and then once I get in there, let's see if anybody drops down. If not, I'm taking the shot. Like, I think he like very had like a game plan going in of like I'm gonna look for these certain things each time. Whereas Dirk, not to say he never had a game plan or wasn't a good passer, but I just think Barkley is probably better in that spot too.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. I don't disagree.
But if we're going off things like that, like finals appearances and MVP, I mean, Dirk's also got an MVP. He's made 2 finals. He's won an NBA championship. So
Yeah.
Dirk was no slouch either. So
I wanted to put Dirk higher on my list than I did. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But he's one of my favorite players to watch.
and then I had KG at 5. Where did you guys have KG?
I had him one slot above Dirk at
I
4.
had him at 5.
Okay,
as well.
so me and Frank had him at 5, and you had Dirk at 4. So what made you put Dirk ahead of KG? Or no, KG ahead of Dirk.
Yeah, so I had Dirk 5, KG 4. Main reasoning just being like KG is that defensive anchor. Like you put KG on your team, for some reason, everybody gets better at defense automatically. So I just like for what he brings to the defensive side of the floor. In the post game, obviously he didn't have a fadeaway like Dirk, but he still had a nice little fade. He could get to the basket. He was more athletic. Like he could get the board, run the court, push it himself. He had a pretty good handle on the ball. I think that KG just provided more in more aspects of the game, but I think that the scoring that Dirk had could have overpowered that as well as his shooting. So that was a really tough decision for me who I wanted to put 4 or 5. But I threw KG at 4 just really because that his defensive abilities gave him the edge on that one for me.
Yeah, KG was insane. He was just so athletic. His handle was really pretty good for a big man. Honestly, like kind of like an AD before AD. Just not allowed to do that as much. I don't know. I agree with the defense thing. Obviously, way better defender. I would say offense pretty close, but I would give Dirk the edge. Obviously, I just think in terms of team success, though, like KG just never. If you look at all those Minnesota teams he was on, they only had one run to the Western Conference Finals in 2004 and then just didn't do that again. Even missed some playoffs. And then it took him, when he got to Boston with 3 other guys, to finally have consistency, and then some injuries caught up with him, and then he's fucking terrible on the Nets. I don't even want to talk about that. And then in Minnesota, it was just more of like a farewell tour. Wasn't much else. So I think just all around, like Dirk was way more relevant from like start to finish. Like teams are competitive just about every year. Even when they weren't, he was there being like the mentor. Not to say KG wasn't doing that stuff, but I don't know how much of an effect he actually had, because Cat's kind of a bitch. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd be quick to move KG up to 4 or 3 on my list. I think he is just one of those players, especially when he got drafted, he just wanted to go at the best player. Like, I think he went at Mike in his rookie season, and he was showing up Mike in the first half, and then, Mike, like, shit on him in the second half. But, yeah, I think kind of like with him and Stockton, I think they're not, I think more of Stockton not really being talked about is because you're on one of those small market teams and just, they just never won. And KG being on that Minnesota team where, Wally Serbiak's in your top 5 options to go to. it's just a bad time. So, yeah, the Minnesota teams, he just never really had any help, but he was a feisty player. And I think that Boston Celtic team could have been a dynasty if it wasn't for the injuries that you alluded to, Mac. I think they could have won in 2009, possibly. But yeah, I just incredible defensive anchor, and just an all-around just great player. And like you said, he used to take people off the dribble too. I mean, that's especially when he's younger. But yeah, I'd be quick to move him up, but I just don't think the success is there.
So like, I'm not completely off. I guess I'm a little off. So he made the playoffs. What is this? I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons with Minnesota, but they only made it out of the first round once.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was getting swept. So it looks like he played 3 games twice. Looks like they lost in 4 3 times, and they only went to 1 5-game series in '98, and they got taken out in 6 when it switched over in 03. And then the only time they made a run was that 04 team. They went to the Western Conference Finals, and then they never made it back to the playoffs until he got to Boston.
Yeah, that franchise has just been a laughing stock for a long time. Unfortunately,
it's so weird. They brought back everyone from that 04 team, and they just, I don't know what happened.
Where'd they finish?
They didn't make the playoffs. I want to say they must have been close. Actually, I don't know. Probably like 10.
05, 06.
It was 03, 04. Let me click on this. Well, they finished. Oh wait, it was the next season. 04, 05. So they finished 44 and 38, which, looking at it, was 9th. Okay, so they missed by 2 games to Memphis, 1 game to Memphis. All right, so they had a possibility of making it, but if you're gonna put Kevin Garnett on a list like this high, like you gotta. I don't know. You really shouldn't be missing the playoffs with the same team that you went to the Western Conference Finals with the year before. I don't know. Chance, you got any more input on this?
I think I'm ready for centers.
All right. Me too.
All
right. Frank, I'll let you start.
All right. So I think it gets dicey for me at 2, but I have my reasons, but I can also see why other people should be above him. But my order is Kareem at 1, Hakeem at 2, Shaq at 3, Wilt at 4, and Bill Russell at 5.
Yeah, mine was I had the same 5 guys, different order. I had Kareem 1, I mean, all-time leading scorer in NBA history. That's got to count for something. Most unstoppable move in basketball history also. I feel like that also is a factor. But so Kareem 1, then I had Shaq 2, then Hakeem 3, then Bill Russell, then Wilt Chamberlain. The hardest part of this entire process was putting someone who averaged 30 points a game and 23 rebounds a game on their career in the 5th best spot on their position. So I'm still not sure how I'm doing that, but it's just where I have them.
So I had Kareem 1. I felt like that was given. Like you said, just like completely changed the game. They took out dunking in college, so he had to create that skyhook shot, and it just became the most unstoppable thing ever. Then I had Shaq 2, Wilt Chamberlain 3, Hakeem 4, and then Bill Russell 5. Did we all have Bill Russell pretty low?
Yeah, I have him at 5 with you.
See, I had a tough time moving him higher. I know a lot of people have him like 2nd, but I couldn't find myself to put him ahead of any of these guys. I just feel like they're all so much better and kind of like built upon what he was already doing and just did it better. And the team he had around them was just so good that I don't think it was just all Bill Russell. That was the reason why they won those championships. Major reason, but not completely like I mean, I guess none of these guys were completely the only reason either, but
No.
I don't think they had
Yeah.
as much help as Bill Russell.
In terms of win share, Bill Russell is way ahead of all these guys. As far as defensively, he was responsible for 134 wins. And the next closest one is Kareem at 94.5. So
That's insane.
Bill Russell definitely defensively.
Yeah.
My thing was I had Bill. Y'all both had Wilt in front of Bill, I believe. I had Bill in front of Wilt just because, I mean, obviously, Wilt Chamberlain's stats are like staggering. Like, they're just ridiculous looking at the numbers that he put up. But they played in the same era, head to head in the same era. The Lakers were just as stacked as the Celtics. I mean, in the same era, they had Jerry West, Elgin Baylor. I mean, it was Celtics, Bill Russell, John Havlicek, Bob Cousy, those guys. But so head to head, same era. Bill came out. It was pretty evenly balanced teams, I would say. Bill came out with 11 championships, as where Wilt came out with 2. And I feel like a lot of times it's hard to use the rings to compare these players, but when you're going back and forth in the same era, it's something that, I feel like
they're both
you have to
clearly
take
the
into
best
account.
players of their era.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I floated it back and forth between those two, but I also had some other thoughts. I'll let Frank go.
I'd be quick to jump Wilt to 2 just because of the freak he was. I mean, he was the first freak before the Greek freak was born. And he's just an Olympian. I mean, I don't know if there was a sport that he couldn't play. And he was just, like, his physique was just freakish and his athletic ability is off the charts. So I'd be quick to move him to 2. Again, the only reason why I have him and Bill down there is I like what you said, Chance, though. That kind of changed my mind a little bit about them going back and forth and being in that era. But for me, it is that era. I mean, they were playing against guys who were almost 7-8 inches smaller than them. A lot of them had second jobs. Some of them were plumbers. Like they just weren't making enough money from basketball. So I think it's just, you look at the competition and it wasn't nearly as good as when you start entering into the late 70s and 80s. So I think that's just it for me. I think they would both still be really good in today's NBA. It's hard to just imagine like how they would play. So that's the only reason why I have them that low.
I think Wilt would be fine. That's honestly why I put him higher, because I felt like his game would still translate. Because he's just so big and fast that he'd be able to just run the floor fine. And I think he'd prosper off the idea of having so many shooters around him that actually allow him to go one-on-one with people.
He'd fit in really well with a shooting team. You put him on today's Golden State.
You point out Bill Russell had 133 win shares on defense, but on offense he had only 29 win shares. So,
I think he's just
it's pretty clear where he was, like what he was supposed to do.
In that era that didn't have 3-point shot.
So
I don't know how many.
You both had Hakeem, or was it Frank that had Hakeem too?
I did.
And then Chance, did you have Hakeem too?
I had Hakeem 3, Shaq 2.
3. Okay, so Frank, what made you put? Because this is the one I was kind of debating too, was Hakeem and Shaq. So what made you put Hakeem ahead of Shaq?
This was the thing I probably spent like an hour or two just going back and forth because I just couldn't decide, because Shaq is debatably the most dominant player in history, and Giannis may dethrone him soon, or maybe he already has. I don't know, but I think Hakeem is just the better, well-rounded center when it came to those two. And I even watched highlights the other day of them in the '95 finals, just going back and forth, and neither one of them could stop each other. But I'll point out a couple things from Hakeem's career is that literally coming out of college in his rookie season, he just immediately dominated. So in his second season, he was averaging 24 and 12 and 3 blocks on 53% shooting. And then that second season in the '86 Western Conference Finals, so he's going against Kareem, who still had a few years before he was going to retire. Hakeem averaged 31 and 11, 2 steals and 4 blocks on Kareem. And then in his '94 MVP season, where he was playing David Robinson 4 times a year, he was playing against Shaq, Patrick Ewing, In the 95 Western Conference Finals, he averaged 35 and 13 and 4 blocks a game. And for his prime, which I would say would be from 1986 to 96, he averaged nearly 4 blocks a game. I mean, he was the rebounding champ twice, the block leader 3 times, defensive player of the year twice, MVP, and he's only one of 4 players to record a quadruple double in history. And when they won the back-to-back championships, I mean, he had a supporting cast, but he was the lone all-star. I mean, they had Robert Horry, they had Kenny Smith, but he was literally the lone person on those teams. So I just think the dream shake and just the footwork that he had, just so crafty, and he was just more well-rounded, in my opinion, than Shaq because he could space the floor. He had a mid-range. Yeah, again, big toss-up between those two. I think I would just take Hakeem over Shaq just for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a case. I would say I had a really hard time with them at 2 and 3 also. The reason I gave Shaq the nudge was simply because of just the X factor of just that he could literally make grown men look like children at any time and just dunk on an entire team. I mean, I think that Hakeem is absolutely the more skilled player. He's more skilled, better defender too. But
yeah,
Shaq is just, it's like when Shaq was locked in, ready to go.
Shaq's no
what do you
on
do?
defense either.
No. Yeah. He's a good defender. But Hakeem is all-time leading blocks leader in the NBA?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, 2-time defensive player of the year, 9-time all-defense. Yeah, it's just, I mean, these centers are just ridiculous, man. I'm hoping that we get a wave of centers that can compete with people like this, but, the way the day's NBA is going, who knows? Joel Embiid is the closest we have probably right now in terms of, and I guess Anthony Davis as well, but they both kind of take different approaches. Yeah, Hakeem
played like that.
Yeah. Joel Embiid reaching his full potential is pretty much Hakeem Olajuwon.
Well, so Frank brought up rookie year Hakeem stats, so I'm going to bring up some rookie year Shaq stats. So Shaq averaged 23.5 points per game rookie year, 3.5 blocks, 14 rebounds per game, all while shooting 56% from the field. And let's see, where did his team finish? He made an all-star team, so I'm assuming they played pretty well. 41 and 41. Oh, so they didn't make the playoffs. So the reason I had Shaq ahead of Hakeem is just because of his playmaking ability. I think Shaq's just such a better pass. Like, Shaq's such an underrated passer, dude. It's incredible some of the passes he would throw out of the post. I was also watching highlights from that finals as well as other games where him and Hakeem were matched up like one-on-one, just because I was trying to see if I could figure this answer out just through watching them play each other. And even that was hard. But I just felt like Shaq was just so dominant on a guy that's considered the best defender in NBA history. Like, there's plays where he literally just fucking dunked on him. I was like, damn, that's ridiculous. And there's plays where he was able to, like, move him back and kind of force him into a fader. And those shots were kind of 50-50. And then just in terms of, like, his post up, like his ability to pass out of post. See, the Rockets, when Hakeem threw it out, I felt like Hakeem wasn't making a crazy decision. It's just more like, hey, they're doubling down, let me toss it out. Whereas Shaq would do kind of like the Charles Barkley thing, like back down, kind of read what's going on. Okay, Horace Grant's going to cut through. Do I hit him? No. Now what's my next option? Are they doubling? Do I have a 3 guy? If not, I'm just going to drop step and dunk it on you. And he did that for so long. Like, even at the Lakers, he did the same thing with the triangle offense. Like, hey, this guy's going to move through. Look for this. All right. Now I'm just going to go to work. So I just felt like all around on offense. Obviously, he didn't have the same mid-range game. But I just feel like Shaq never needed it just because of how fucking big he was.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna put my ass here, and that's where I'm gonna
be. Yeah,
and
you aren't gonna move me.
Yeah, and he did the
so
one
big
thing that guys don't do anymore, is he'd run down the floor and just establish position right underneath the hoop, and that was it. It was over. If you didn't beat him down the court, you were done.
Yeah.
So,
The thing is, Shaq probably has the best career of anybody that you can look back on and still be like, you know what? If he tried a little harder, he probably would have even been better.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, as good as he was, it's like he could have been better. And that's
He
not
didn't
even a
need to
slight
be
against him.
325 pounds, dude.
Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah, seriously.
it's insane how dominant he was whenever he wanted. It's just whenever he wanted, he got exactly what he needed. I mean, they literally broke the game. They're like, we just have to foul him every time because at least he's a bad free throw shooter. Because if he touches the ball, he's just going to dunk it.
Didn't they allow you to do play zone or something? Like that was allowed again or something? Or something changed with defensive three. Something changed. Maybe they implemented defensive three because guys were just camping it out, waiting for him to come. I don't know. There was some kind of defensive rule change because of him, just so they could like give teams a fair chance. Like that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So I think whenever you make a rule change, you are my favorite. So that's why Kareem.
That's why
You know,
Kareem's
you're not
one.
allowed to dunk. Shaq, it's like there's new defensive rules. So like automatically you kind of just move up my list.
Yeah.
After these, honestly, dude, these guys were just like my top 5, and after looking at these 5, I didn't have any that like stood out to me where I was like, oh, maybe. Like
Me either.
Yeah, I don't even want to say names because I just feel like they're not in the same category.
Yeah, clear cut 5 best centers of all time, in my opinion.
Where would you guys put Patrick Ewing? Is he anywhere close?
I mean, yeah, he's got to be close. I mean, he's got to be top 10.
Yeah, I mean, I've slowly changed my mind on Patrick Ewing. I still think people overrate him a little too much. But like watching his game, he definitely was not a bad player at all. I think I just like to not like the Knicks sometimes, but
Yeah, I think that's why.
his mid-range game was really good.
I think the closest player I had was David Robinson, if anyone.
Yeah, he
I
was
don't know if you guys have him
insane.
close.
How many defensive player years did he win?
I know he won a ton. You pair him with Tim Duncan, it's just like Jesus, man.
Yeah, stupid.
But even Robinson was dominated by Kareem.
8 times all defensive, 94-95 MVP. And dude, if you look at his success, it's the same thing. Like the Spurs didn't miss any playoffs, except I think like 1 year or something like that. And that's how they ended up getting Tim Duncan. So
Yeah, great coaching, and just even when players were leaving or retiring, they had solid fill players, so always had a solid team.
yeah, no, I think David Robinson would probably be one of the closer ones for me too.
Yeah.
His
You think
offensive
Dwight can
game's
get
just
on
not
this
the
list?
same, but
Or you think it's like he's
Dwight,
Yeah. Can he even come close to Bill?
no, I think he's just so much better than like I think Bill's way better. I think David Robinson, like there's guys that are further down the list that are better than Dwight. Actually, I'm looking at David Robinson's numbers and they're pretty crazy. Man averaged like 25 to 30 points per game.
Yeah.
Easily 10 rebounds per game. I knew his defense was good. I just didn't know he scored like that. I don't know. I think for Dwight it's over. He's on the back end. He's just kind of doing what he needs to do, just like these guys were doing towards the end of their careers. So his chances, it's come and gone. I think he kind of blew it when he left Orlando.
Yeah.
Not to say he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. I think he's a Hall of Famer easy. I just don't know if he's a top 10 center of mine all time. I guess he might be. Probably have Patrick and Dave Robinson ahead of him.
Like he's got a few years, but I think he's past doing any damage as far as moving up. Hall of Famer, yeah, I'd agree.
Oh, another guy. So this guy I was looking at for this spot, and I didn't want to put him in here just because of injuries, but I think Bill Walton is such an underrated center to ever play, dude. He was amazing. Like, he could do so much, and it's just his ability to score, his rebounding, his defense, very athletic. Just injuries killed his career. So,
I saw something that he only had like 2 really good dominant. Other than that, it was like he didn't do too much. I don't know. I could be wrong. I haven't really.
Well, so he was injured a lot. In college he was injured multiple times. He played with a back brace on for like half his college career. Gets the NBA. Only played 35 games his first season, 51 his second. The year they won the title, he played 65. I think that was the year they won the title.
14 rebounds.
Dude, just
And 3
unbelievable.
blocks. Wow.
58 games. Then he broke his foot. Then he signs with, or actually, I think he broke his foot when he signed with San Diego, which was the Clippers at the time. Then he only played 14 games, re-injured that same foot, missed 2 seasons. Like, this is probably what Greg Oden's career would have looked like if Greg Oden just kept playing.
Dude, why is it always Portland? Like Greg Oden, Bill Walton, Brandon Roy. It's like players are just gonna have
the only season where he had a lot of success was with Boston. He played 80 games. Like, that was the only year he was healthy. He was a 6 man on that
drafted by
team.
Portland. I'd just request a trade, I guess, unless you're Damian Lillard, in which case you'll have a great career, but not amount to too many wins.
Something's gonna
regular season wins for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even these box score numbers don't do its justice. Like, if you even just watching games of him play, he's just so freaking dominant. It's insane. And he was so athletic. You wouldn't know because I think a lot of people only remember him in Boston, helping that team win a championship. I'm pretty sure that Boston team won a championship. Yeah, but it's like he was able to do so much more before he became a 6 man. It's just injuries destroyed his career.
Sucks.
I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you want to input on any of these?
I mean, I'm good so far, I think. Unless anybody else has something.
I think going back to small forwards, the only other person I was considering and I really didn't know much about was Rick Barry. I feel like people don't talk about him.
The old underhanded free throw.
Yeah. I mean, I think he did a lot in the 70s bringing those teams. I mean, he was a scoring champ a few times on a Golden State team that really didn't have anyone else and was playing against, I think in the finals he played against Wilt Chamberlain's Sixers. And I'm pretty sure they lost, but I mean, he was averaging like 35 points a game. I think in that finals game or that series, he was averaging like 40. Yeah, no, I still don't know much about him, but I know a lot of people talk about him being one of the GOATs. So
I think people don't give enough credit to guys that played before, like the modern era.
yeah,
because they're all good ball players, and I'm pretty sure, if anything, if they were allowed, because I'm pretty sure they were just not playing in the off season. Like, it was like, I'll like shoot maybe once every couple days or something, but now it's like it's a lifestyle, dude. You go and you train every day, and then, you know, there's like certain things that you do outside of just training for basketball. Like, you gotta keep your body in a certain shape, gotta eat a certain way.
yeah.
I think that's all just like, if they were forced to do that, it'd be so different because they would just, I think they'd be fine with any transition to today's NBA. I mean, I guess the competition would be tougher because there are more people playing basketball than there were then, but I don't think there'd be like a drastic drop off where like this guy just can't play. So
Yeah, I definitely don't think that's the case for Wilt or even Bill. They have terrific players.
like
It's just hard for me to imagine.
Yeah, like some of the older players I had on here were Oscar Robertson, Elgin Baylor, and then like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. Like, out of those guys, I think would be fine. I think they would still be able to play today.
Yeah.
It'd just be a matter of like changing your game a little bit. But it's not like none of them could shoot. It's just when you're just that much more dominant than guys, like why
Yeah.
stray from what you do? Like do what you do best. If
Yeah.
that's backing your guy down, just dominating him in the post, and like that's what you're gonna do to get a basket.
Yeah, and a lot of them when they were coming in the league, like the 3-point line wasn't invented, so it just wasn't emphasized. So
It wasn't
I
needed.
think they could, yeah, they could easily adapt though. I feel like. So.
All right, so I think that's gonna wrap this up. We're coming up on way over our normal time. So, Chance, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Chance Caudle. The last name is spelled Caudill. And actually, it's either Twitter or Instagram. And then there's Chance Caudle 42. I'm honestly not sure which one's which. But if you can't find me with one, just plug a 42 in after it, and then I should pop up.
And they can find me at Swainatra, SWAENATRA on Instagram or Twitter.
And you can find me, Mackie Ireland, on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find Rim Grazers on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you do your social media. You can listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, and SoundCloud. And we're getting more and more websites each day. So if there's a specific platform you listen on, chances are we'll be there soon enough. And we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
Peace.